Hey guys, this is our 2001 Jayco Freedom. We just recently purchased this about 3-4 months ago and just slowly worked through the process of kind of getting it up to scratch. We bought it relatively cheap in comparison to some of this same caliber van. The reason it is a bit cheaper is it had a bit of roof issues. It was pretty clear to see when looking at the van that it had noticeable slump in the middle of it, as well as some water damage in one of the corners and towards sort of along the side of this wall here. The van is actually in really quite good shape for its age. Benchtop wise, bedding, etc. are really neat, but the roof did let it down. There is a proper way, if you call it that, to fix the roof, which is a pretty big labour wise and cost wise job to repair it. It requires taking the canvas off the roof section removed, and from what I've seen, the outer panels removed and the stringers replaced. It's not uncommon for Jaycos to slump. My neighbour's next door, he's only got a recently new Jayco van. It does have an aircon on the roof, but even it is visibly showing signs of a slump. So what I've come up with, and with a bit of a help from a forum, which I'll link in the description, where I found this idea. Basically what it involves is some box section steel. This was some leftover steel that I had from a previous job, which I've taken to work and rolled. Most and some engineering firms should have a roller of some description, or it might just take a bit of asking around to see who has what. So this basically, I put a slight radius on these box sections using the roller. With a couple of passes, it didn't take much to sort of form a real mild arc. Yes, there's a bit of a guesswork in the scheme of things. This is probably, this part of it, I guess you would probably need someone who's a bit familiar with what they're doing in regards to rolling. You could work it out with a straight edge and work out how much lift you need, so that you can give to someone at an engineering firm to say, look, I need a radius of this, just to raise the roof. So the reason why I've got the trolley jack and the bit of 2x4 pine in here is just to demonstrate the way I've used to lift the roof, as well as just hold these pieces of steel up here while they're being fastened on either end. It doesn't take much pressure to lift the roof. You basically can do it by one person. Two would be ideal. I was able to just sort of hold it in place, both things, get the timber close, sit the steel on top, and then just use my foot to gently just use the trolley just to get it into position and hold it. I'd recommend a good trolley that doesn't have a leak and doesn't just drop down over time, because it can take a little bit to fasten and get right the outer pieces that hold these steel supports in. So I'll attach a bit of a materials list of what I've used for this project in the description. It's a 25 by 25 mil box with encapsulated nuts, M10 nuts on each end of the supports. There's cap head bolts on the outside. So what I'll do, I'll show you the next part of what I have done. So on the outer side of it, this attaches to the aluminium frame that runs along the outside ring of the roof. That is 30 mil angle line. So basically what I did is get the supports in place, get them nice and square, running along the roof where you want it, and then use a knife, or a texter, to locate where the encapsulated nut is. You cut a little bit of canvas out with a sharp pocket knife, locate it with the bolt, do it up slightly, and then you can position the angle iron to get it in the right spot, and then finally tack screw it in place. It's a little bit of fiddling around, but it actually is pulled up really, really tight, and I believe really strong. I based my method on this basically because the gas struts work on a similar principle, and they have been there since the get-go of this van, and there is no sign of deterioration or signs of it being ripped out. So, and in theory, it's carrying a similar style of weight to what my new supports are. Another bit of a mod that's probably worth mentioning, and what I've done to this van, I haven't completed yet, and I will in a later video. I plan on attaching a motorbike rack along the front of it. Where we just intend to go camping, I do a lot of motorbike riding, and my son eventually will as well. It'll give us the option to run a motorbike along the front of this drawbar, which would make just for a bit of excitement, a bit of things we like to do when we're away. But in the course of this, it's mean I've had to relocate the gas bottle, mostly because obviously for cooking, and the fridge runs off it when you're parked up for X amount of time. So what I've done is utilise the existing bracket for the gas bottle, and it fits in really snugly and neat into this original toolbox in the front of the van. Little bit of modification to the actual bracket to run a bit of flat bar from one side to the other, where it usually does not have that because of these U brackets on the front of the van. If you're handy enough with a welder, you can easily put in a bit of flat bar and actually drill it through the floor. One of the, call it bolt holes, it's got just a nice broad washer underneath to pull it up on firm onto the plywood. The other actually goes through the chassis of the van, so it is a little bit hard to kind of do the nut up. It's probably a two-person exercise, but it is not going to go anywhere. It's, yeah, just as tight as, say, the factory setup. I have done a bit of reading on the internet in regards to the rules and regulations to gas bottles with caravans, etc. And what I've came across, and look, don't take this as professional advice or anything, I am not at liberty to give you the rules. You should make that only assumption on your own research, but I plan on running a vent into the wall. From what I've found is, as long as the gas bottle is vented, so that you can't obviously have feedback of gas in case of a leak back into the cabin of the van. So I am planning to put in a little wall vent that's also bug proof as well, with a bit of mesh in it, so that in the vent, if that was to happen, it leaks out outside by the vent and not into the cabin. As for changing stuff for the plumbing wise, I was actually able to utilise the regulators as well as the original copper pipe. That's really just a bit of a slow process. You have to be just very gentle, you know, bending it back very slowly and using very round radiuses and bits of pipe or cylinders or whatever you've got to sort of just do nice gradual arcs so that you don't bend too sharply the pipe and don't put a hole in it. So now I've pressured this up, I've run it over soapy water everywhere for quite a while, and I have got no leaks. So very confident that the bending of the tube has worked out really well. Underneath wise, it was a little bit tighter to sort of get it to do two sort of bends to go up into the toolbox and then pick up the existing T-piece underneath. Not very hard, and if you've got a proper pipe bender and stuff, it's very easy to do, even easier if you use a brand new bit of copper. But a bit of, I guess, call it laziness, resourcefulness, I've used the existing bit that I had to move it into place. And you can also see one of the mounting bolts for the gas bottle, as well as the second one you might see down in the chassis. Both have got spring washers and such, so yeah, as said before, very securely mounted. So that really kind of concludes the video of the support mods that I've done to this van, as well as a little bit of the gas bottle mod that I've done and still sort of working on. I plan to do further videos just in regards to our modifications for this van. I've still got to reseal all the roof, which is a matter of a process in itself with a scaffold and removing all the silicon. I've got to yet find the best way I can sort of do that, either with razor blades or certain sort of abrasive wheels for the grinder. But I might even film a bit of the process of that too, just to show a bit of, I guess, guidance or my findings of how I've done things to, and hopefully help someone else in the future with their sort of endeavours with these vans, because I've so far found very little videos on YouTube with people actually doing repairs or modifications to these Jaycos, where they are a really good van and value for money in comparison to probably going out and spending $50,000-$60,000 on a newer, maybe off-road or equivalent sort of style van. This is a good way to get into it with not breaking the bank, and seeing if you enjoy it, and that's our intention. I will film more too of the bike rack that will go on the front, as well as a push bike rack planned to weld up and make for the rear of the van too. So yeah, we are pretty pretty active when we're going to go away, so that's why we intend on modifying and getting this thing right, and yeah, ready for the future. Thanks for watching.